honestly, I was sitting there thinking, like, what if he does not make it through this? Hey everyone, I am back with another video. Cameron is with his father right now, so it's just gonna be me today. So I want to do a story time, which is long overdue because this happened when Cameron was about, I want to say maybe 3 weeks old. Like, I don't even think he was a month old yet. It's taken me this long to finally talk about it for a few reasons. Like, in the moment at first, there was so much going on, like I could not even think about recording the video to talk about it because I was actually in it. Secondly, it impacted me so much that, like, you know how when you go through something really hard and you try to talk about it, if you're not over it yet, you'll start crying or start feeling the same way you felt when you were in it. That's kind of where I was at. Like, if I was to tell someone the story in person, I would start tearing up telling the story, and I didn't want to do that on camera. So here I am months later, and I'm ready to share the story. Okay, so where do I start? In the third week of Cameron's life, I got sick, and it came out of nowhere. It was like a regular cold, but I didn't want to transfer it over to him, and so there were like 1 or 2 days where my mom came over, and she would spend the night so that he could sleep with her and not be in the room with me where the air had probably all my germs and stuff. And so I think this was the second day she had slept over. My uncle had flew in from California. He had some type of like business thing to do, some meeting or something. So he was also here. He had just gotten in that morning. And I got to sleep in because my mom was here and my grandma, they were helping me out since I was sick. So I woke up and I remember hearing Cameron like choking kind of, but like it was just a regular noise that he would make when he was spitting up. And if you've seen our previous videos, you know that he had acid reflux. So basically, sometimes after he would drink, the milk would come up. Like, he would just spit it out. Sometimes it would be projectile, sometimes it would just spill out. But it usually was enough for him to like kind of choke on it. So we were used to that, and we would normally just pat him on the back or whatever. So I heard that, and it didn't alarm me because it was normal for us. So a few minutes later, I got up and I went in the kitchen to get some water, and I just saw like a look of like panic on everyone's face. It was my mom, my grandma, my uncle. They were all sitting at the table. I think it was my grandma that was holding Cameron when he started like choking. And I could tell by everyone's faces that it was beyond what normally happens. Like, something was definitely wrong. So my grandma was like trying to pat his back, and it wasn't really helping. So naturally, like, my mom starts to panic, and she grabs him from my grandma, and she kind of like held him up in the air and tipped him down so that the gravity could like help whatever it was come out. She's like patting his back, and his face was turning red. He was crying. I'm pretty sure that was the first time I had ever seen him crying with tears, like with actual tears, because sometimes newborns don't get tears in yet right away. And he didn't cry with tears until that moment. And that's when I started freaking out. So he's crying with the tears. His face is red. He clearly has something in his throat, and it's almost like he cannot breathe. Like, you could see it in his face, with the stress in his eyes. It was awful. I don't really know how to explain, like, if you've ever seen someone who drank something and it went down the wrong side, and they have that look of like panic and fear in their eye, like, please help me. That's what his face looked like. I had a finger in his mouth trying to scoop out whatever it was, and it seemed to be this really really thick like mucus. And I'm like, what is this? So it seemed like he had just had a bottle. It seemed like it was from the milk, but it was so thick. It was like, I'd say 3 times thicker than the actual consistency of the milk. So I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like, I'm getting some of it out and it's thick. So I'm like, I could see how he's choking on this if there's more than what I've already pulled out of his mouth. It was crazy. And it was to the point where like no one could really get it out. So I'm like, my mom's like, well, what do we do? Should we go to the emergency room? Should we go to the doctor? And my grandma was like, you should probably try the doctor first, because most ERs aren't equipped with like pediatric stuff. Like, yes, they can help your infant child, your newborn child, but they don't get many newborns in. So start with his pediatric doctor, the people who are used to dealing with people his size, and then if you need to go to the ER, then go to the ER. So we called the office. This was a Saturday, and so we were hoping they would let us come in. So we called and we're like, our baby is not really breathing well. He's like choking on something. We're coming in. So we're like, fine. So get in the car. My mom's driving. I'm in the back with Cameron, and we're on our way to the doctor. Cameron is still like struggling to breathe, and at this point he's making noises. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like you could just hear that he was trying to breathe and couldn't, and it was almost like he was starting to lose breath in a way. I was panicking, freaking out. I'm in the back seat sobbing, like straight sobbing, because I could almost just like feel his pain. And I said I wasn't going to do this. I said I wasn't going to tear up. You see, though, it's been all these months and it still affects me, because it was awful. So we're in the car and he is struggling to breathe, and his face is just getting more and more red. He's looking me in my eye, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just started praying, because I was sitting there thinking, like, what if he does not make it through this? Because it had been several minutes by then that we were finally on our way to the doctor, and he just was having such a hard time breathing. And so I'm sitting there, I'm looking at him, and I'm like, do I leave him in there to like keep choking, or do I take him out and risk us getting in an accident and something bad happening, and just go ahead and pat his back and help him to get it out while we're on our way to the doctor? And so I'm like really going back and forth. I asked Mom, I'm like, Mom, what do you think? Like, I really think I should take him out and just pat his back. So she's like, all right, just go ahead, because the doctor's office is not far. We were right down the block. And so I did it. I was unbuckling him. I took him out and I was patting him, and then I was able to hold him close and just comfort him. And I'm telling him it's gonna be okay, but really I don't know that, and I'm crying, and it was just this whole big thing. So we get to the doctor's office. My mom pulls up to the front. I'm getting out as quickly as I can. It was cold. That was obviously February, if he wasn't a month yet. So it was cold. I was trying to get him wrapped in a blanket, but also just like get in there really quick, get into the office as quickly as possible. So we get in, we go in the office. I'm trying to explain to the receptionist that we had called and he is having trouble breathing and we need to be seen right away. Stupid receptionist is trying to go about things the normal way, as if she's not staring at my child, who is now like borderline turning purple because he can't breathe. And I'm just crying. Like, it was hard for me to get my words out to tell her, like, I don't care what you're saying right now. I don't care if there's like some type of wait. I don't care if the doctor is seeing someone else right now. I need my child in the back right now, and I need for the doctor to come see him, because this is an emergency. So the well visit that he's in right now does not matter. Trying to get those words out, couldn't. All of a sudden, in bursts my mom. She's angry because she expected for us to be in the back by the time she got in, and she saw that the receptionist was giving us a hard time. She's like, I've never seen my mom like so like angry and just it was crazy. It was like something straight out of a movie scene. So she burst in. She's like, he's not breathing. He's not breathing. We need to go back there right now. Right now. So the lady's like, okay. And then one of the nurses came out, and we know them well because my sister went to the same doctor, and she's now 14. So they know our family well, but that receptionist is new. Besides the point. The nurse comes out, and she knows us. She's like, oh, please come back. So she puts us in the room. She has us explaining to her what was going on, and she looked at him, and she was like, oh my God. Like, let me get the doctor right now. So she went and she got him. He came in. He asked me if Cameron had a seizure. That's how bad he looked. His face was still like bright red. His lips were turning purple. His eyes, everything was swollen because he was crying, and he still is like he has labored breathing. He's kind of like hyperventilating kind of, but you could just hear that he is not breathing. And so I'm trying to explain to the doctor everything that happened in the morning, and he's like, you need to go to the hospital right now. So he told the nurse, he's like, go call the ambulance right now. So she went to call the ambulance. He took Cameron's vitals, and then we kind of just talked until the paramedics came. So paramedics come in, and all of a sudden I hear, oh my God, is this such and such? I don't remember the names. Are you such and such from wherever? And they're like, yeah, oh my God, is that you? A whole reunion is happening in this doctor's office. Apparently, the young men who were the paramedics used to go to that pediatric office, and I guess they had that doctor and that nurse, and everyone was all excited, and they were just happy that they went into like medicine and this whole big thing, like, oh, how's your mom? Like, all mad social. Meanwhile, me and my child are sitting there like, hello, he can't breathe. This is not time for reunion. And y'all are paramedics. You should know better. So I interrupt them, and I'm like, can we go to the hospital? Like, aren't you here for that reason? Isn't that why you came? So like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, come back another time and have your reunion, and let's go. So we go out, and the ambulance is sitting there. We go up and tell the guy briefly like what happened, and he sits us on the stretcher. We're inside of the ambulance. So we're talking to him. He's taking Cameron's vitals again, and he gave us oxygen and a mask. So I had to kind of hold the mask. I didn't put it like on Cameron's face, but just like close enough where as he would breathe in, the oxygen would come through his nose and just, help him out. So we're doing that. I'm also at the same time trying to talk to my mom and ask her, because she said she wanted a specific hospital. There's, I think, one hospital in the area that has a pediatric ER, so that's the one she wants to go to. So I'm trying to, like, get the name of the hospital so I can tell them where to take us. And then after that, like, as all this is going on, I realized that things have been going so quickly that I never called Cameron's dad. So I'm texting him. I'm like, Cameron's having trouble breathing. Here's what's going on, this and that. I don't remember where he was, but he wasn't really in the area. And so he said, he was going to have his grandmother come and meet us, and then something happened where he was able to come, so my mom went and picked him up. So we're in the ambulance, we're pulling off at this point. My mom's on her way to go get Cameron's dad, and then they're all going to meet us at the hospital. So we're driving there. I'm holding the mask. I'm holding Cameron. I'm still like in tears, and the guys in the ambulance are like trying to calm me down. They're like, "It's gonna be okay. Don't worry. Like, just try to relax, because if you are in distress, then it's gonna make him more stressed out." So I'm like trying to calm myself down, and every time I think about it, I just start tearing up again, and it was this whole cycle. And so then I'm like, I didn't tell any of his godparents what was going on. So texting them, and they're all just like, "We're gonna pray, everything's gonna be okay, Cameron's strong, this and that," like just giving me like encouragement. So it was like a 15-minute ride. Like it was pretty long, but I could feel that Cameron felt a little better. Just a little bit, and I think it was from the oxygen. So we get there. Side note, I had never been in an ambulance before. My first time to a hospital ever, like being admitted to a hospital, was when I was giving birth to Cameron. So all this stuff kind of scares me. Like, it's the stuff you see on TV. Anyways, so the ambulance goes into the ER entrance or whatever. And then they put me and Cameron are still in the stretcher. So they have us sitting and waiting to go in the room to give general information to the people. She's asking me all these questions. She wants to know my name, my birthday. She wants to know Cameron's birthday, his measurements. Was he in NICU? Was he born early or on time? Where were we when everything happened? Then she started asking questions like, how many bottles does he have a day? How many diapers does he have a day? And like I said, he was 3 weeks old, and obviously I was with him every single day of those 3 weeks. However, that's not something you sit around and think about. Like, oh, let me count how many diapers that we used today. I don't know. I did not know the answer to those questions. So I'm literally like sitting there trying to think about how many diapers or bottles I give him in a day, and it's not there. The information is not there. And of course, I already had what was going on my mind. Like, I was so stressed out that it made it even harder to like think about that. So right as I'm thinking about it, my mom and Cameron's dad walk in, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I told my mom, like, this is what they just asked me. I have no idea. So she's thinking about it, and finally I just guessed a number. And the lady, I don't remember what number I said, but that nurse, she looked at me like, are you sure? And I'm like, I don't know. My mom was like, no. Just let me think about this. She's like, because if you say number too low, they're going to say that he's dehydrated, and that's not what this is. So I'm like, okay, you're right. Like, go ahead. So then she figured out a number and told her everything was fine. So we get admitted to one of the rooms, and they give Cameron this little baby hospital gown, which was so adorable, but it was really big. It was pretty much made for like a child that's 2 years or so, and like I said, he was 3 weeks. So he's like drowning in this little robe, but it was still so cute. Anyways, they had us sit on the bed. I had him on my lap, and then they gave me some more oxygen to just hold as I was waiting to talk to the nurse and the doctor. So talked to the nurse, told her what happened, and eventually the doctor came in, and what she said was that it was acid reflux. She told us to, after we feed him, to make sure that we're holding him up for extended periods of time so that the milk isn't like just sitting here. It goes down to his stomach, and then it's not coming up and out. So we're like, okay, like that's something the doctor told us, and it just didn't sit well with me. And I'm gonna tell you right now, for all you moms out there, all you new moms, if you ever get an instinct when it comes to your child, believe it. You don't have it for no reason. And I know it's hard sometimes because we get this information from experts like doctors, and we are taught to just trust what they say. But you have to just realize that the things they tell us are generalized. They're generalized to the population of the child. And your instincts are specific to your child. You know your child. You know what's normal for them and what seems off. And so if the doctor tells you something and it doesn't feel right, it's okay to second guess it. So when she told us that, like, it didn't feel right, but I didn't know what else it could have been. So I kind of just took her information and went home and moved on. I'm so grateful that we didn't have another episode like this. But now, of course, now that all these months have passed and I know that he has this, like, a milk allergy, I'm thinking that's what it was. I'm thinking that he was having an allergic reaction to the milk that he was on. And part of that reaction was, like, the thickening of the milk so much that it was blocking his airway. And I truly think that that's what was going on, because he pretty much already had acid reflux before all this, and that was nothing compared to what happened that day at the hospital. Nothing. That, I truly think that was an allergic reaction, and that scares me. It scares me because if we didn't move quick enough, something really, really horrible could have happened. And also it scares me because that's not something that the doctors considered. Like, even if they thought that maybe it might not have been, that's something that they should have mentioned. Like, oh, there's also this possibility of such and such. Didn't mention it. So, it was just crazy. It was crazy. So we got discharged. We were only really in the room for like maybe 30 minutes, I would say. 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And then we all just left. We came back here and we were just kind of sitting here and holding Cameron and comforting him. I felt so bad. It was crazy. I forgot to mention, I was still in my pajamas because if you remember to the beginning of this story, I was just getting out of bed to get some water. I was probably going to go back and get into bed because I was still sick. No. Everything happened so quickly. I was in the hospital in my pajamas looking crazy. It definitely showed me how strong Cameron is, and it made me a lot more grateful for him and for his life. So, and also for like the people that were supporting me, like my family, obviously, his godparents, his dad, like all the people that came through in that moment. I really appreciated it. So that's my story time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I mostly hope that you learned something for your own self, because that definitely was a learning experience. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later.